Hi there, and welcome to chapter 4 in your book. The topic is choosing a speech topic and purpose. That said, let me start sharing the screen so that way we can get going with this great chapter, shall we? Okay, choosing a speech topic, and here we go. Choosing a speech topic and its purpose. It should be a topic that you know a lot about, or it can be a topic that you want to know more about. At the very least, what you're going to do is start brainstorming for ideas. So, as you get further into this chapter and further into this semester, as well as the class, you will get to understand that the instructor never really picks and chooses your topics. That is solely up to you. And that's because at a college level, everyone would like to think that you have many things to talk about, many things to explore. So instead, why not explore and discuss things that you already know a lot about? That is a great way to inform your audience. And if not, then at least start looking at a topic that you want to get to know. If you're at a college level, then that means that pick a topic that you're about to go into the field of. And if not, try and explore other areas that you think of maybe of interest to you and that you would like to research and do more. And at the very least, what you're going to end up doing is actually brainstorming the topics just to like get a better idea as to what's going on. When you choose a speech topic and its purpose, how you come up with this speech, sometimes it's accidental and sometimes it's deliberate. You may stumble upon a topic that you're like, I think I kind of like this. You may end up actually discussing things with your peers, and they may end up talking to you about, hey, have you ever thought about looking into this or looking into that topic? And sometimes it's very deliberate. It's right in front of you. It's right like at your nose. It could be something that is going through your family, is going through your friends. It could be a disease, it could be a disorder, it could be things that are just on a college level. Invent a speech topic, and related materials are on your own. You could easily do that. And it helps to narrow your speech topic once you are done. So it's not as hard as you think because a lot of it is right where you are already at. While you're selecting a topic, what you have to take into consideration is what is the speaking situation. So, if you're in a college course, then obviously the speaking situation is your classroom. But in other instances, if you are talking already in your field, like you're already in your profession, then a lot of times you have to look at that speaking situation. You could be in a boardroom, you could be in front of 500 people having to go to a conference and discussing your ideas. Or you could be amongst a group of other people. Nonetheless, the size matters as well as the speaking situation. What topics are interesting and relevant to me? That's a question that you have to ask to yourself because once it's relevant to you, that's where the importance comes in, where you can actually drive that message, if you will, home, and what topics will be interesting and relevant to my audience. Now, when you think about it, there are things that are interesting to you that may not be of, or you may not think that may be of great interest to your audience. So you have to start brainstorming as to why will it be interesting and relevant to your audience. Maybe it's something, maybe it's information that they could take to a later date. Maybe what you don't know is that they can actually relate to what you're talking about or the information that you're uh, about to present to them. When you consider the speech situation, again, you have to look at the location, whether it's the classroom, a boardroom, a conference, could be a TED Talk for all you know. Could be, and of course, you have to consider the size. You may be speaking in front of 5, 20, 200, 1,000 people. The age range could be anywhere. If you're in a classroom, you are amongst your peers, 18 to 22, could be in your or at your work, and that age range could easily fluctuate. And the demo of the characteristics of your audience. Now, your audience in a classroom, especially at the university that you are currently at, is very diverse. Many people in this mixing bowl. If you are at a conference, again, you're going to have a mixing bowl of different characteristics in your audience. You will, however, have probably like minded people at your place of work. So that is something where, that is a little bit more on the lines of everyone is alike or has some similarities. But for the most part, those demos vary from speaking situation to speaking situation. Consider your audience as what topic will be interesting and relevant to them. I've heard a lot of speech topics about CBD and the benefits of it. I've heard a lot of speech topics when it comes to NCAA and how we should, in terms of a college, be paying our college athletes money. So if it's interesting and relevant to you, how is it going to be relevant to them? Do they have a family member that may be in there? Do you have a family member that may be taking CBD? Are you taking CBD yourself? Is there some sort of family member that has bipolar disorder? So these are the topics that are relevant to you and that you could possibly make it relevant to them. And those are questions that you're going to have to continually ask yourself prior to presenting a speech topic. Always keep in mind that when speaking publicly, your fundamental purpose is to build a sense of community with your audience. You are with them, they are with you. For this reason, it is important to remember that just because a topic is interesting to you does not necessarily mean that it may be interesting to them. You're going to have to, if it's a topic that you really want to touch on, you're going to have to not necessarily convince them, but at least give some sort of relevancy as to why they should be listening to you. To help in this situation, it's always useful to think about your own interests intersect with topics that might be compelling or useful to your audience. Don't treat this classroom as an artificial situation because they are your audience. Now, remember that we are at ground zero in terms of this is a 1,000 level course, but you also have to remember that this is where you start to hone in and practice your skills. So while you're honing and practicing your skills, you should also honing and practice your speech topics. And again, just because this is ground zero doesn't mean that their thought process isn't as relevant as someone that you may be encountering at a conference that you have to present to. So that is something that you have to remember. This is not artificial. This is actually authentic. Develop the classroom as your testing ground to apply when you do leave your classroom, and work to explain your ideas very clearly, very concisely, and as interesting as you possibly can. Don't so much dive into or just focus on the research, because a lot of that is going to happen as you are getting deeper and deeper into your speech. What you want to do is that although your research is going to be clear and concise, you yourself as the speaker has to be clear and concise with everything that you say. You have to be transparent so that way you leave no chance on the floor of anything that you say to be interpreted any differently than what it's meant to be. So again, you have to be clear and concise with everything, especially when it comes to your speech topic. Choosing a speech topic and its purpose, ways to figure out a topic. Again, you can brainstorm, try and get unstuck in a word situation, try and do that whole, word thing mapping that may able to work for you. Concept mapping, research. Research a lot has to do with it, because sometimes you can get into a topic and then research it and then find out that's not something that you really want to look at. But your next step is to narrow down your topic. So even upon research, you'll definitely be able to narrow down your topic. Now, your purpose when it comes to a speech topic is to inform or to persuade. So in this particular speech class, you'll have two very specific types of speeches, an informative as well as a persuasive. When you determine what your speech is and its purpose, your specific purposes, it allows you to indicate precisely what you want to accomplish in your speech. Think of your specific purpose as your thesis. Central idea is usually expressed as a very simple declarative sentence that refines and sharpens the specific purpose statement. Now, your purpose statement is more or less your thesis, but you want your central idea to be very, very refined. And what you have to remember is you don't want your statements to be broad, because we as an audience need to understand you as clearly and as concisely as possible. Here are some examples. Your specific purpose statement is to inform a small audience of food enthusiasts about the little known properties of salt. That's informative. A specific purpose statement when it comes to persuading is to persuade senior citizens to use less salt, be more concise of their salt consumption, and to be aware of the hidden sources of salt. You see, it was very refined and it was very finite. So both of them were, but in very different ways. Again, one was to inform, which is educate. The other was to persuade. So between a specific purpose statement and a thesis statement, once you have identified a topic and narrowed down your scope, it becomes more of a specific purpose statement. A thesis statement, sometimes referred to as the central idea, is a single sentence that expresses the topic and the purpose of that speech just before you dive head into your speech. For example, a speaking situation to inform an audience about salt, then a thesis might be something like, today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited to explain to you that there are many uses for salt other than seasoning your food. So in that thesis statement, the purpose of informing is deliberate and not mentioned to make the thesis statement that more interesting. Then you go into persuasive. If you look down. So to inform the thesis statement, for decades, people have thought about salt as seasoning. However, you can use salt in ways that you may have never thought before. Then your I cannot pronounce today. To persuade specific purpose statement is to persuade senior citizens to use less salt, be more conscious of their salt consumption, and be aware of the hidden sources of salt. Kind of like what I showed you before. So that is chapter 4 on choosing a speech topic and its purpose. To just break it down really quickly, talk about what you know, or talk about what you think you may want to know, or at the very least, start brainstorming. In fact, everything that you may or may not want to talk about in terms of a topic, there's always some sort of brainstorming involved. And after all of that, you can narrow down your topic. The chapter also talked about specific purpose statements, general purpose statements, kind of coinciding with a thesis. So you can go back into the ebook a little bit more, get more examples, so that way you can better understand how to break everything down and to be more clear and concise when it comes to your speech topic. Thank you.